What you're looking at is a place where nothing went wrong. No disaster, no disease, no starvation. In fact, this might be the most comfortable place any animal has ever lived. Unlimited food, unlimited water, complete safety. No predators, no competition, no suffering of any kind. Scientists built this place, filled it with mice, and then watched. What happened next took 4 years, and it started out beautifully, but it ended in a way nobody predicted, in a way that some scientists think was a warning, not just about mice. In 1968, the world genuinely believed the future would be good. Better food, better medicine, better everything. The whole idea was, give people enough and they'll thrive. A behavioral scientist named Calhoun wasn't so sure. He'd spent years studying animal behavior, and he kept coming back to the same question. Not, what happens when animals don't have enough? He already knew that answer. His question was, what happens when they have everything? So he built them a world, a giant enclosure, temperature-controlled, spotlessly maintained, 256 separate nesting areas, food dispensers that could feed thousands. Scientists accidentally invented mouse retirement. He called it Universe 25, because this was his 25th attempt. The previous 24 had not gone well, but he didn't talk about those. He started with 8 mice, and then he waited. For months, everything worked. The mice explored their new world, built nests, formed social groups, had babies, lots of babies. Honestly, if you'd stop the experiment here, you'd probably call it a complete success. The population doubled every 55 days. And why wouldn't it? Imagine waking up, opening your fridge, and discovering it magically refills itself every single day. That's basically what these mice had. By day 315, the population had grown to around 620 mice. Everything was fine. Everything was great. And then, Calhoun noticed something small, something that didn't make sense. He watched it for days before he believed it. And when he finally understood what he was seeing, he went very quiet. Even though the habitat had room for thousands more mice, they started crowding, not because they had to, just because. Whole sections of the enclosure, completely empty. Perfectly good nesting areas, abandoned. Every mouse jammed into the same corner. For no reason anyone could explain. Calhoun called it the behavioral sink, which sounds like a plumbing problem, but it wasn't. It was something much weirder. Males started attacking each other. Not for territory. They had plenty. Not for food. There was more than enough. Just random, senseless aggression. Like something inside them had come completely loose. And then, the mothers. This is the part I couldn't stop thinking about. The strangest thing wasn't the fighting. It wasn't even the deaths. It was that mothers simply stopped. Newborn mice, days old, would crawl toward them, and they would walk away. Not aggressively, not violently, just away. As if nothing was there. Calhoun had run experiments for decades. He had never seen anything like it. But that wasn't even the strangest part. The strangest part was a group of mice he couldn't explain at all. They weren't sick. They weren't injured. They weren't starving. In fact, they looked better than every other mouse in the experiment, which made what happened next even stranger. He called them the beautiful ones. They were the healthiest animals in Universe 25. Perfect coats, no scars, no injuries, well-rested, well-fed, by every physical measure, the most successful creatures in the experiment. They just didn't do anything. They didn't fight, didn't mate, didn't form bonds, didn't raise young. They ate, they slept, they groomed themselves, over and over, every day, in a loop. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones because, well, that's what they look like, beautiful and completely hollow. Here's why this experiment still gets talked about today. When Calhoun took some of these mice and placed them in a completely new environment, fresh space, plenty of resources, healthy mice around them, they still couldn't connect, couldn't form relationships, couldn't function socially, at all. Whatever window existed for learning those things had closed permanently. They had been given everything, and in return, they had become nothing, alive, but not really living. By day 560, the population peaked at around 2,200 mice. Then it started to fall, and it never stopped. Birth rates collapsed, social structure was gone, The mice that remained were the ones who had never learned to connect. They didn't die from disease or starvation or anything that attacked them from outside. They just stopped. The last mouse died around day 1780. The food was still there. The water was still running. Nothing had broken. Universe 25 was still perfect. There was just no one left. After it was over, Calhoun said something. He called what had happened the death of the spirit before the death of the body. Now, I want to be careful here, because this experiment has real critics. Scientists who say you can't apply mouse behavior to humans, that the conditions were artificial, that Calhoun overstated his conclusions. They might be right, but here's a different way to think about it. Right now, there's a good chance someone is watching this video alone, eating food that arrived without speaking to another human, scrolling through comments without knowing a single person posting them, surrounded by more comfort, more entertainment, more stimulation than any human being in all of history, and feeling kind of empty. That would have sounded impossible 50 years ago. Calhoun wasn't saying we're mice. He was asking something harder. What happens to a species that solves survival but never figures out what survival was for? Scientists still argue about what Universe 25 actually means, whether it's a warning or just mice being mice. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe we're different. Maybe comfort really is just good. But every now and then, when someone tells you life has never been easier, when everything is available and optimized and delivered, you might find yourself thinking about a habitat, spotlessly clean, perfectly stocked, completely silent, and wonder what the mice were doing right before it got quiet. Do you think Calhoun was right? Or is this just mice being mice? Drop it in the comments. I actually want to know.